Israel's most widely read newspaper, Yediot Achronot, is reporting that US President Barak Obama has sent a message to Iran that the US will not follow Israel into a war if it decides to unilaterally strike the Islamic Republic. Using back channels, President Obama reportedly said the US will sit on the sidelines and that it expects Iran, in return, not to strike any US military bases in the Persian Gulf. Now, US and Israeli officials have not commented on the report, but analysts here say it's more proof that the U.S. is trying to warn and dissuade Israel from carrying out a military strike to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program. Other analysts say it's also going to send a dangerous message to Iranian leaders.
It could not but encourage Iran to accelerate its race to acquire nuclear weapons, continuing to cheating and lying about its nuclear program, and achieving an immunized position vis-a-vis both the United States and Israel.
Taking the threat of a U.S. military strike off the table, even if Israel strikes on its own, is a mistake, according to political science professor Eytan Gilboa. Sanctions and diplomacy will only get the Iranians to stop their nuclear program, Gilboa believes, if they are coupled with the credible threat of a military attack. Israel's prime minister and many other officials agree with Gilboa. Jerusalem has been urging Washington for months to ratchet up its rhetoric and flex its military muscle. The results have been mixed. The Obama administration has talked about the military option, but has preferred to push for a diplomatic solution on Iran, especially with the presidential election around the corner in November. Many in Israel believe it's time for President Obama to change course.
Overall, Obama's strategy toward Iran has completely failed. A report published a few days ago by the UN International Atomic Energy Agency has just documented major progress in the Iran nuclear weapons program. So far, diplomacy, sanctions, threats, persuasion have all failed to stop this project.
The latest IAEA report found that Iran has more than doubled the number of centrifuges in its fortified underground Fordow facility since May. The machines are reportedly not yet operating. Prime Minister Netanyahu brought up the IAEA report in his weekly cabinet meeting, saying it's more proof that Western-imposed sanctions are not deterring Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Netanyahu blamed the international community, saying it had failed to place what he called a clear red line in front of Iran, a red line that would show Iran the world was determined to stop its nuclear weapons program. President Obama was not specifically mentioned, but it's no secret Netanyahu wants him to talk tougher on Iran. Distrust between the two leaders has reached a new low, insiders say, despite public protests to the contrary. The Israeli newspaper report that President Obama has assured Iran he will not join in an Israeli-led war is just the latest sign of disagreements between the allies on Iran. Recent remarks by General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, also set off criticisms in Israel. Dempsey, the head of the U.S. military, recently suggested Washington would not be drawn into a conflict with Iran if Israel attacked. He said he did not want to be complicit if they, meaning the Israelis, quote, choose to do it. While Israeli officials continue to consider their options in the face of what they believe is Iran's race towards the nuclear bomb, some here still believe the U.S. will determine the next step.
And since I believe that it would be extremely difficult for Israel to launch such attack without at least some understandings with the United States, my conclusion is that an Israeli attack on Iran nuclear facilities prior to the presidential elections is very unlikely.
The New York Times is reporting that in response to growing criticism of his Iran policy, President Obama may take new steps to toughen his stance. That may include naval exercises and the placement of new anti-missile systems in the Persian Gulf. The report says President Obama may even spell out U.S. red lines for taking military action, something Israelis would certainly applaud. The White House press spokesman Jay Carney said there was no truth to the Yediot Achronot story. Jordana Miller, JN1, Jerusalem.